Shalom Aleichem, friends. We will be discussing now some commentaries about the Parashat of Bamidbar, which means this lecture is primarily for the people outside the land of Israel, because this coming Shabbat they will read in New York or wherever in the world, they will read the Parashat Bamidbar, whereas in Israel we will be reading Parashat Naso. Parashat Bamidbar, I would like to call the theme of this talk the importance of the unity of Israel. You see, the Ari HaKadosh, the Holy Ari, as well as the Kabbalist, they say that these days from Rosh Chodesh Sivan up to Shavuot, the days before Shavuot, are special days that have the potential to bring unity among the people of Israel. You know, when the Jewish people stood at the mountain of Sinai, there were 3 days there, and it says that they were united like one person. So, this is a great time for that, especially that we need so much unity in the land of Israel. Well, there is something very special, practically extraordinary in the beginning of the parasha. Parashat Bamidbar begins by the commandment to Moshe that he should do the consensus of the tribes of Israel for all males between the age of 20 to 50. Kol yotzei tzava beIsrael, all those that go to the army, all those that go to the wars, means the young people, between 20 and 50. So Moshe was under the obligation to count them, how many they are. Now we are talking, of course, about males who go to the army, which means they are the symbol of power, Gevurah. The Torah tells us in this parasha that the consensus came to a total of 600,000 and 3,000 and 551. And 550. As I said before, this is an extraordinary number. I repeat the number: 600,000, 603, 550. Now, in Kabbalah, every number can be reduced to a small number. The example is in our case. By the way, the 0 doesn't count in Kabbalah. Anyway, it's a number that has no meaning by itself. So therefore, we count only 6 plus 3. We have 9. Then we have 5 and 5. That's 10. Altogether is 19. The 0 after 550 doesn't count, as the 0 and 0, 2 zeros before the 3,000. So we have altogether 19, which also reduced to a small number will be 1 plus 9, that's 10. But 10, you have to remove also the 0, you have number 1. What does it tell us? That this number 1, it tells us that the Jewish people are supposed to be one. Like we say on the day of Shabbat towards Mincha, in Mincha on Shabbat we say, Ata Echad, you the Almighty One, you are one. Veshimcha Echad, your name is one, which means there is no other religion really but yours. Ve'amecha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz, and the Jewish people, the people of Israel, are in fact one nation. Can we say that about today? Very far from that. But there are times in which we become united, like in times of war, when we are attacked by our enemies, suddenly there is a wave of unity. Otherwise, unfortunately, with the fact that we have this system of all kinds of parties in the Knesset, in the Parliament of Israel, so each one, of course, goes after his interest, and automatically there is no union, and there is a tremendous rift, let alone the rift between the religious people and the non-religious people, the Chilonim versus the Datiyim, or the Haredim, even more. But there is here a great hint. Number one, this is the time that has the potential for unity. Number two, the number of the Jewish people, of all the 12 tribes, besides, we don't count the tribe of Levit, because they don't go to war, and also they were not enslaved in Egypt. So if you count the tribes of Israel for males only, and only those from the age of 20 to the age of 50, as specified exactly in the Torah, in our parasha, you will find even the Torah itself brings us the total of 600,000 and 603,000 and 550. Altogether, in a reduced number, we come to number one. Oneness, unity. All the Jewish people are supposed to be always in unity. Because, as our sages said, in time when the Jewish people are united, there is not one nation in the world that can overcome. En umma velashon yechola lishlot aleim. There is no nation in the world that can overcome the people of Israel, provided that they are united. It says in the Midrash Tanchuma, in Parashat Shoftim, בזמן שישראל עושים חבורה אחת, when all the Jewish people make up one group, unity, אפילו עבודה זרה ביניהם, even if there is idol worshipping among them. So we spoke about the rift and the split between the religious and non-religious. But now there is a tremendous revelation from the Midrash Tanchuma, which tells us, בזמן שישראל עושים חבורה אחת, אפילו עבודה זרה ביניהם, אין מידת הדין נוגעת בהם. When the Jewish people, when the people of Israel, primarily, when they make up one single group, then even if there is idol worshipping among them, which there is nothing worse than that, yet midat ad-din, which means the measure, the harsh measure of justice, does not touch them, which means God does not punish. We saw that in the Jewish history, in the time of Achav, the king of Israel. As we know, he had a wife, a terrible wife, Isabel. She was an idol worshipper. She was in fact a leader among the prophets of the idols. Achav was not such a great man. He was a man who also worshipped idols. In his time, it was the worst time, religiously talking. It cannot be worse than that. And yet, our sages said that in the time of Achav, they had only victories against their enemies. Why is that? Our sages said because they were united. They did not let differences of opinions to split them and to cause dissension among them. Also it says in the same Midrash, Midrash Tanchuma in Parashat Nitzavim, Ein Israel nig'alim ad sheyu aguda achat. The Jewish people cannot be redeemed. Redemption cannot come yet. The Messiah cannot come yet until they are one single group, which means united. That's how unity is tremendously important for the Jewish people, and we lack plenty of that. There was an old and great rabbi, approximately about 900 years ago, by the name Rabbi Yehuda Hasid. He was known because of his book Sefer Hasidim. And he says that, I'm quoting, Le'olam lo ya'asu it. It's a promise that he says. לעולם לא יעשו הגויים רעה לישראל, אלא אם כן יעשו תחילה רעה ביניהם. The nations will never do any evil against the Jewish people unless if the Jewish people themselves did not hurt each other. How about that? We have here a great promise by the great Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, whose words throughout the generations were extremely respected, and he says that there is no power to the nations to do us harm unless if we harm our fellow Jew. Let me bring here another thought. The Talmud says, אלמלא שמרו ישראל שבת אחת מיד נגאלים. If all the Jewish people would respect halachically, perfectly, one Shabbat, immediately the redemption will follow. And that's a bizarre statement. Number one, what's the connection between redemption and keeping Shabbat? The observance of Shabbat has anything to do perhaps with the Geulah, with the redemption? In a different place in the Talmud, in Masechet Shabbat on page 118, Kuf Yud Chet, it says there almost the same statement with a slight difference. Ilmale shamru Israel shete Shabbatot bilbad miyad nig'alim. If the Jewish people would observe just 2 Shabbat, immediately the redemption will follow. What's going on? Why do we need 2 Shabbatot? I mean, and why is it that 1 Shabbat is enough to bring the redemption? Besides, it says miyad nigalim. Immediately the redemption will come. We know that the redemption takes time. It goes phase by phase. Doesn't come quickly. But here it says miyad. In Hebrew, miyad means immediately the redemption will come. We have to explain that. So first let's begin with 1 Shabbat. What is the connection? 1 Shabbat, if it is respected and perfectly observed according to the halacha, meticulously, without any exception, all the Jews, wherever they are, religious or not religious, if they will decide for 1 Shabbat, we are united around Shabbat and we honor it and observe it meticulously. Then the Mashiach comes, the redemption comes. Why? It's very simple. We are united 1 single Shabbat. That's unity. For 1 Shabbat we are all united. Immediately that's what follows is the redemption. You want to know why? Because that is redemption. We already said that if there is unity among the Jewish people, there is no nation that can overcome us. Isn't that a kind of redemption? I guess this is the best kind of redemption. We will finally stop from being persecuted by the nations. And now all we need is a Messiah and building Bet HaMikdash. Everything will be followed. Of course. But the redemption is right here. Now imagine what is 1 Shabbat meticulously observed. Imagine 1 Shabbat. No telephone calls. No watching television. Some people are in the pangs of habit. They have to. But when the Shabbat comes, we don't care. No television, no telephones. I mean, no cars, no buses, except if there is a need because to save a life. Then we allow cars to ride on Shabbat. What about synagogues? They will be full to the rim. There is no room. People will pray in the streets. Right? You think it's not beautiful? I remember in Morocco, there is no such a thing as a Jew who is not religious. All of them were Sabbath observant. At least in the city where I was born, Meknes. I remember Friday evening, what you smelled in the air was soap. Everyone took his shower, they went to mikveh, and now they all wear the special garments of Shabbat. And you see them on the street running, each one to his synagogue. You could have felt Shabbat to touch it, practically touch it. And then you hear the sound of Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, the famous song by Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz. From every single synagogue, that wherever you pass, you hear it. Now that's a great Shabbat. And then when they finish the prayers, they meet each other outside. Everyone says to his fellow Jew, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. What a beautiful Shabbat it is. What a great nobility and royalty there is in that Shabbat. That's what we call redemption. Unfortunately, it was only in small places. But if all the Jewish people would be united over Shabbat, one single Shabbat, redemption will follow. Now we have to explain, why do we need another statement of two if they keep two Shabbatot? I mean, what's the difference? What's the point? Because there is such a thing. Of course, we are talking only about one Shabbat. But the two Shabbatot we took, number one, there is a certain explanation about that says, if you invite the poor in your table on Shabbat, then he has a Shabbat also. When poor people have nothing to eat and you invite them for Shabbat, you help him to do his Shabbat and you do your Shabbat, that's two Shabbatot. That also will be very useful to bring the redemption. But there is also another problem. We think only non-religious Jews do not keep Shabbat. Well, that's obvious, we know that. And we deplore that fact, there's no question about it. But sometimes, because of some painful reasons, you saw very religious Jews throwing stones on Shabbat towards those who drive their cars, for example. Of course, we understand that it is from pain, from the pain for the desecration of Shabbat, but at the same time, to throw stones is called muktzeh on Shabbat, and it's forbidden on Shabbat. So we say, if there will be finally an understanding between the two parties, religious and non-religious, and each one will keep the Shabbat properly without any exception, then that's the two Shabbatot, the Shabbat of the non-religious and the Shabbat of the religious. And that's still only one Shabbat. Get it? Right? It says in the Talmud, in Masechet Yoma, on page 9, it says there, Mikdash Sheni, the second temple that was destroyed, unfortunately also, right? But you see, what happened is that everybody was religious then. The Talmud says they all studied Torah, they all did all the mitzvot of the Torah, the 613 precepts of the Torah were kept. They also did Gemilut Chasadim, loving kindness and charity. So, Mipene ma charev, the Talmud asks, why was the second temple destroyed by Rome? The Talmud says there was one reason. Mipene shehaita bo sinat hinam. Because at that time there was, even though they were very religious, but there was vain hatred. Hatred for no reason. I'm asking you, that's called in Hebrew sinat hinam. But is there a possibility to have hate for no reason? I mean, we understand that if someone hates, he has a reason. But here it says, it's not because of the hatred that has a reason. It's because of the kind of hatred that had no reason. What is the hatred that is in vain? I have only one answer for it. Jealousy. You're jealous of your fellow Jew. Let's say your fellow Jew won the lottery, $20 million, and he's your neighbor. Suddenly you realize that you hate him. You go to the streets and you see that everyone is talking. Did you hear that idiot won so much money? I mean, money could not find a better human being than this one. What makes people react this way? I remember when I was the rabbi of the Sephardi community of Co-op City in New York, I wrote a whole article about this because a neighbor won the lotto of $20 million. And I remember. So I wrote, why is it that everyone suddenly talks so bad about a neighbor who became rich? Jealousy. And jealousy is the kind of hatred that is for no reason. I mean, he didn't harm you. He didn't do anything against you. Why would you hate him? Why is it that you feel you don't like him? It's terrible. That's exactly what happened in the time of the second Beit HaMikdash. That despite the fact that they kept all the laws, but they did not neutralize, they did not eliminate that terrible trait of character that we call jealousy. Rabbeinu Yonah, in his book, he says, when someone is jealous, stay away from him. Because there is only one way. I heard this from Rabbi Victor Miller. The only way to get rid of jealousy is by when you start from the beginning, when you feel jealousy, let's assume a friend of yours became a millionaire. As we say, there is a natural tendency to dislike that. You are jealous. So what do? Get up, go to him, and say to him, I'm so happy that he became a millionaire. You probably lie, but that's a good lie. You want to know why? The Mesilat Yesharim, the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lotzatu, he writes in his book, שהחיצוניות מעוררת את הפנימיות. Sometimes it's important to even lie, because the exteriority, the external feelings of yours could bring also the internal feelings. If you get up and you say, I am happy for you, it's possible that you will feel happiness for him, especially if you do it several times. And you surround him with love. You will feel better. You will feel good. I tried it many times. Not for the millions of dollars. That I didn't care. But for everything that goes on in life. When someone, for example, was chosen for something, I was very happy for him. And you know what? I felt good about it. Try it. That's the only way to get rid of that terrible trait of character that we call either kin'a, jealousy, or sinat chinnam, or you hate for no reason. He did not do anything to you, against you. There's only one sign for the last redemption. I'm quoting from the book of Malachi, they say, in chapter 3. Hineni sholeach lachem et Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu the prophet, God says through the prophet, he says that I will send you my prophet Eliyahu. Eliyahu the prophet is the symbol of peace. If you know the story of Eliyahu, he was before Pinchas. And what does it say in the Torah about him in the Parashat of Pinchas? When he killed Zimri for doing such an abomination among the people of Israel, by taking the Midianite woman and in front of all of them. So he did something that is not easy to do. But he saved the Jewish people from the anger of God. That's why it says there, Hineni noten lo et beriti shalom. God says, my reward for Pinchas, I will give him my covenant of peace. And then Pinchas, according to the Midrash, he did not die. He became Eliyahu the prophet, who is practically an angel that appears on earth from time to time to people who are meritorious, or when people don't know about it. But he comes primarily to bring peace. As it says in the continuation of that verse from Malachi, Veheshiv lev avot al banim velev banim al avotam. And he will bring back the hearts of the children towards their parents, and the heart of their parents towards their children. Let's give you an example of this generation. This generation, there are many people who come back to religion, especially young people. They come from houses who are not religious at all. And I remember in Co-op City, I had a large group, all of about 70 of them. They all came, most of them came from houses who were completely nothing to do with religion. But they became religious. Some of them even went to yeshivot, in Or Sameach Yeshiva. Some of them today are doctors and lawyers, married to doctors and lawyers, quite religious, Baruch Hashem. In the beginning, probably there was some kind of, hard feelings in the family. There's a difference between the parents and the children. But eventually, many of their parents became religious also. When Eliyahu the prophet will come, he will bring peace among the families, among fellow Jews, among the world entirely. Why? Because he is the symbol of peace. There is a certain information that everyone should know, that in the Talmud, when there is a big dispute between the sages, and they end up each one with his opinion, and we don't know what is the outcome. We don't know what is the answer. So what do we say? Teku. Teku means no answer. When the Prophet Eliyahu will come, he will give us the answer. But Teku itself is an acronym for Tishbi, Yetaretz, Kushiot, Uvayot. Tishbi is the Prophet Eliyahu, right? He is known as Eliyahu Tishbi, or Eliyahu Giladi. When Eliyahu will come, he will give the reason behind everything, and he will definitely bring the logic of everything. And that's why he is also the symbol of peace. Like Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Their dispute is quite famous everywhere. But finally there will be great peace between them. So I am going to conclude with this. If you remember, just a few days ago we celebrated the day Yom Yerushalayim, the day of Yerushalayim. What is the word of Yerushalayim, the holy city where we are here in Israel? Yerushalayim comes from the word Yerushalem, the city of peace. So in the city of peace, unfortunately, we don't see that much peace. But we can bring it. We can make up this peace if we just use logic. Now I cannot give you examples for that. All I can say is another statement of the Talmud in Masechet Eduyot in chapter 8. It says there, after a long discussion, the sages said, Chachamim omrim, Eliyahu ba, lo lerachek, velo lekarev. Eliyahu the prophet will come at the time of redemption, before the Messiah comes, maybe 3 days before. He will come. He doesn't come for the reason of ignoring people. Some people will be ignored, some people he will bring back. No. Ela la'asot shalom benehem. He comes here to make peace between the one who is far away and the one who is close, I mean far from the Torah, and the one close to the Torah. He will bring them together. As it says, as I quoted before, הנה אנוכי שולח לכם את אליה הנביא, והשיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם. So remember this, my friends. Let's hope there will be Nechamat Zion and Yerushalayim. That one day soon we will have full consolation on behalf of Zion, the land of Israel, and Yerushalayim, the city of peace. Shabbat Shalom.